Welcome back to the channel, guys. We're getting right back onto our kids side by side. We're gonna start off right where we left off last episode, and that is getting this front suspension built for this little buggy. We're just gonna be doing a simple single A-arm design. I'm gonna build it. Get mosquitoes. It's just gonna be a simple single A-arm design. I'm gonna build myself a template where I can just punch two out back to back. And then once that's done, we're gonna move on to the rear end. So at first I'm gonna get started on making those front A-arms, the spindle set, and I'm gonna build myself a jig on my make table where I can just punch two out real fast, making sure they're somewhat identical, and just get that front end, the suspension side of the front end, just completely wrapped up. Once I get that done, I'm gonna be moving on to building the rear swing arm slash motor mount slash the whole back end, the whole motor and everything moves. It's just that easy, so we're gonna get it started. All right, so I have both of the A-arms just kind of mocked up and tacked together. They came together real quick. Wait, there we go. All right, so we have both of the front A-arms almost built. I got to put the spindle hangers on either side of them, but other than that, they are complete. I'm going to need to put a bushing in on these hinges here. I was going to put a weld-in bushing in, but I'd like to keep something a little bit more replaceable. So what I'm actually going to try to do is I'm going to 3D print some bushings for these out of a strong plastic. So hopefully that will work all right. I think it should work fine. All right, so we have the A-arms and the hinges all set up. I'm going to pull all this stuff back off, and then we are going to work on the upper and lower shock mounts to wrap all this stuff up. And once I get that done, I can go on to getting the correct angle for my spindle hangers, and we'll get those done as well. Ooh, baby, baby. All right, so we have our A-arms built with our suspension mounts all done. And the next part is to get our spindle hangers welded onto the A-arm. So this is going to be a little bit tricky because there's a couple little things that we have to take into account. First off is it's a single A-arm. So as the suspension moves up and down, the camber of the wheel is going to change. And so we want to find a spot where when the suspension is squatted to its kind of normal ride height, we have roughly the correct angle of camber we need in the front tires. That's going to be a little bit difficult, A, because these A-arms don't sit perfectly horizontal when they're installed, and they don't squat to being perfectly horizontal. They actually sit with a little bit of angle. So I got to figure out what that angle is, and then affix that hanger into position. The other part of that is these hangers actually need a little bit of extra tilt to them to get the correct kingpin angle for our spindle. Another thing I got to think about too is the actual caster of the steering. So how much that hanger is actually rotated. And what that does is it changes the loading on the tires, and it dynamically changes the camber of the wheel when you're steering. There's a lot of complex compound angles that go into attaching these spindle hangers into place. So I'm probably gonna have to do is make some type of jig. These aren't symmetrical, so I don't know if I'll have to make some type of left hand, right hand. Not sure if to make like a left hand or right hand jig, but or maybe just some type of blocking to put on to get these affixed into place. But yeah. What I'm doing right now is kind of just checking what the scrub of the steering radius is going to be. And the scrub is basically, as you're turning, if our kingpin is straight up and down, your wheel is actually not rotating around the center of the tire. It's rotating around your spindle. So your tire is actually hanging off like a fulcrum. What that does is every time you hit a bump, every time you brake that tire, this doesn't have braking, but if you had a vehicle with braking in the front, it's going to want to pull that tire, or whatever the weighted tire is, it's going to want to pull it back, and you'll feel it through the steering wheel. As you try to get rid of the scrub, and you tilt the spindles back, you can see that my screwdriver here is drawing the pin angle down to the tire. That's actually going to cause the swiveling of the steering to be closer to the center line of the tire, or where the tire is making contact with the road. So if you hit a bump or you're doing braking, it's not trying to pull the tire back. It's actually braking and taking that force and putting it directly into the suspension instead of putting it up through the steering into your hands. So we're not necessarily doing this to maximize the braking performance of the side-by-side, because we currently don't have front brakes that are going on this, but it is going to allow, when this hits a bump, it's not going to try to pull the steering wheel right out of your hand or try to break your thumbs, because this is for kids, and it's going to make steering a little bit easier. Yes! All right, so we have the first one, and now it's time to duplicate that onto the other side. So let's give it a try. Well, they definitely came out looking relatively similar enough. So I'm going to finish just a couple little more bracing tack welds around them so they don't shift at all while we're working with them. Once I know for sure that all are I will weld them in with some gussets and stuff too to make them a little bit stronger. All right. right, so I'm hoping that those are where they need to be. I guess I'll only really see once I actually get the wheels on this thing, get the spindles on, and actually start moving it around to see if it's exactly where I want it to be. If not, I can always just cut them off and re-weld them on a little bit different. So now that we have this all welded into place, I want to check to make sure that the caster angle of the spindle hanger is about in between 3 and 5 degrees. That's what it is for modern vehicles. It gives a little bit of stability and steering wheel centering when you're going in a straight line. You take your hands off the wheel and it's going to want to bring the vehicle back to the center line. So that's what we want. So ideally we're looking between 3 and 5 degrees. I have my little protractor here. We will set it up and we're on 4 degrees. So between 4 and 5 degrees of caster, which is exactly what we were looking for. So I think these are going to be set up nice. We have the right kingpin angle. We have a perfect caster angle. And so now all that's left is to build the actual spindles themselves. As long as we get the axle to the spindle angle right, everything in the suspension should work out fine. Should work out fine. All right, the holes, even though I used a 1/2 inch bit, it's a 1/2 inch bolt, so they don't fit like they shouldn't. It's close tolerance. So what we're going to do is pop that suspension off, and I'm going to use my precision snap-on tapered reamer, aka a 1/2 inch square file, and I'm going to run that through in every way you're not supposed to. I'm going to use a drill to taper these off. That is the highest precision every time. But all jokes aside, it actually does a really, really good job to ream those holes out to the 1/2 inch you need. All right, so here is the jig for making the spindles. I have it all set to 22 degrees. I've already made one. It came out really, really good. So I'm just going to put another one together right now to show you guys. So these aren't going to be the rims that we'll be using, but they will be the tires. But they work fine for mock-up. But this is exactly what it's going to look like. So I'm just going to go through a bunch of the different suspension heights to see if the angles still make sense and look good. And then I'm just going to finish it all up and get started on the steering. All right, we got all the suspension all done. We have the spindles done. We have the spindle hangers done. A-arms are done. Shock mounts are done, top and bottom. So that ends everything for the front suspension. And I just went to edit all the video last night, and I realized that there was about 7 hours of footage of just doing all the front end. I don't want my videos to be more than 20 or 30 minutes. I'm not making 1 hour videos, so I'm just gonna end it right here, and I'll just save the next stuff for the next video. Just keep these videos all around 20 minutes. In the next video, we're gonna be jumping on to the rear swing arm, get that all done, because where my rear axle is gonna sit, it's gonna determine all my steering angles up front. So I'm gonna do the rear axle first, and then I'm gonna come forward and get all the steering done. So the next video, we'll be doing the rear swing arm for the side-by-side. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you like what we got going on here. And come back in another 2 weeks. We'll be jumping right back into this project. See you guys later. Where I can just make where I can just copy 2 back to back, making sure that needs to go, and some of the degrees. Yes. 2 weeks from now we'll be, oh god, oh geez, oh god, welded onto the end at the correct spindle hangers, welded onto the correct. I just did it again.